our lesson for today from 1 Corinthians chapter 9. Of course, the other one has your stuff that we've been using during this series, including a place for you to write down some notes from the sermon and stuff for you to use during the week to come. But let's look at our passage from 1 Corinthians 9. This is what Paul writes to the Corinthians. Am I not free? Am I not an apostle? Have I not seen Jesus, our Lord? Are you not the result of my work in the Lord? Even though I may not be an apostle to others, surely I am to you. For you are the seal of my apostleship in the Lord. And though I am free and belong to no one, I have made myself a slave to everyone to win as many as possible. To the Jews, I became like a Jew to win the Jews. To those under the law, I became like one under the law, though I myself am not under the law, so as to win those under the law. To those not having the law, I became like one not having the law, though I am not free from God's law, but am under Christ's law, so as to win those not having the law. To the weak, I became weak to win the weak. I have become all things to all people, so that by all possible means I might save some. I do all this for the sake of the gospel, that I may share in its blessings. Do you not know that in a race all the runners run, but only one gets the prize? Run in such a way as to get the prize. Everyone who competes in the games goes into strict training. They do it to get a crown that will not last, but we do it to get a crown that will last forever. Therefore, I do not run like someone running aimlessly. I do not fight like a boxer beating the air. No, I strike a blow to my body and make it my slave, so that after I have preached to others, I myself will not be disqualified for the prize. Well, we're nearing the end of our Winter Olympiad series, and next week on Palm Sunday, as we enter Holy Week, we're going to wrap things up. So it sort of makes sense that as we get sort of within spitting distance of the finish line here, that we talk over the next couple of weeks about the goal or the prize that we are striving for in this race that is set before us that's called the Christian life. And folks, in the midst of this series, I would be rather remiss as a preacher if I did not include our lesson that we just heard for today from 1 Corinthians chapter 9, because in it is some of the richest athletic imagery that we find in the entire Bible. Paul's words to us today, they are so richly layered with the spirit of the ancient Olympics, as we are about to see. And if you're like me, then as you watched the Winter Olympics a few weeks ago, then perhaps what was most inspiring to you was the amazing amount of discipline and the commitment it takes to compete at that level, right? Yeah, it's not just this walk in the park. These athletes, they see this prize, this Olympic medal dangling there before them. And so with all of their might, they train and they strive towards that objective. Well, folks, today I want us to sort of apply what we saw those Olympic athletes doing during the games, and how? By recognizing that our main goal must be to discover God's plan or the unique race that he is calling each of us to run in. And then to be able to go after that prize with all of our might. That's the competition, the race that we've been called to enter into as Christians. But you know what? Most Christian believers, we've never even awoken to the fact that God does in fact have a special race for each of us to run in. In fact, that's what the Apostle Paul was saying there in the midst of our lesson for today. Notice that he asked us a question. He says, "Do you not know that in a race, all the runners run, but only one gets the prize. So Paul is saying that each of us is running in a race. Well, folks, as we've done over the last number of weeks during this Winter Olympiad series to kind of prepare us to hear the Greek word for the day, we get into Olympic spirit by hearing some rather Olympic-sounding theme music. Let's listen. Sort of gets you choked up, doesn't it? Right here, right? Just kind of hits you. Well, the word for race in the Greek is the word stadio. Of course, you can see from that word we get our word stadium. But in ancient times, the word stadio first described a race course that was 600 feet long. Essentially, it was an eighth of a Roman mile. That exact length was used in the Olympic Games in Athens, Greece, but it was also used in the Isthmian Games, held near the city of Corinth, the place to whom Paul is writing today. You see, Paul is a highly educated man, and he knows precisely what he is doing when he uses a word that describes the ancient Olympic race course of his day. In fact, since this is the metaphor that Paul has in mind, how about we spend just a moment sort of looking at the Olympic competitions of the ancient world. You see, the winners of the Olympics, when they won, they were rewarded materially, of course. However, if you study these ancient Olympic champions, what you see is that their primary reward wasn't so much that which was material, it was the honor that they received as the victor. The victors, though, were only able to achieve such a victory in the Olympics. How? By being disciplined, by being balanced, by being committed to excellence. And for these qualities, they were then held in high honor. In fact, they became revered, they became heroes, they became gods and icons in their culture because of these qualities. And as a result, respect and honor and fame became theirs for the rest of their lives. But in addition to these ideas, it's also important to note that that word race, yes, it also, from the Greek, stadio, depicted the huge arena where the Olympic athletes compete. That's what we know as the word stadium. So Paul is using this word for us and for the Corinthians folks to tell us that we are in a race. We are in a race of faith. It puts us on display at the center of the arena. In essence, people see us as we run this race of faith, whether we realize it or not. So not only are we involved in a race, but others are watching us as we run. And so just as sort of we got a window into the lives of the Olympic athletes that we watched a few weeks ago when they won or when they lost and how they responded under victory or under defeat. So those who watch us, they witness our joys and our struggles and how we respond. So yeah, we have to keep in mind that we're not running in some private race of faith, but a race that has the potential to influence a lot of other people's lives. And so Paul urges us to run our race in a way that encourages the bystanders who are watching from the sidelines for them to want to get in this race as well and to discover their own destiny in Christ. It's sort of like what Paul's buddy, the Apostle Peter, has to say to us from his letter. From 1 Peter, we read, "Dear friends, I urge you as aliens and strangers in the world to abstain from sinful desires which war against your souls. Live such good lives among the pagans that though they may accuse you of doing wrong, they may see your good deeds and glorify God on the day that He visits us." Yeah, in fact, the word that Peter used there for see, it refers to a careful watching over a long period of time. So others are watching. And as we think about these ideas, Paul was saying to the Corinthians and to us that we need to see ourselves as sort of like these spiritual Olympic athletes. This Christian life that we are called to, folks, it's no game. The race we're called to run, it's for keeps. It's the most serious competition we will ever be involved in on this side of eternity. It's for all the marbles. And true, the rewards of a life well lived, they're enormous. Some here on this earth, as we get to witness the impact, the ripples that reverberate outward into the lives of our children and our grandchildren and our neighbors and our friends. And yet most of our rewards, folks, are reserved in heaven for us if we are faithful to run the race that we're called to run clear to the finish line. And once again, it's interesting, folks, that in the old King James Version, that Paul's challenge to us today reads, "Know ye not that they which run in a race run all?" I want you to particularly notice the emphasis on run all, because it's referring to every believer. Yeah, every Christian is in some kind of a race. You might be in a 100-yard dash. You might be in a marathon. And though we refer to every believer, we need to understand that some of us are still awakening in our lives to God's particular call. What is the run to which He has called me? And the fact remains, God has a specific path, a course, a trajectory for your life. And our task then is to find that path, to get into shape, to start running the race set before us. And once we've done that, to run like mad to the finish line. That's why Paul exhorts us to run in such a way so as to obtain, to win the prize. You see, having been a runner myself, I understand how runners think. And a runner's singular thought is the finish line. In fact, that's why Paul says to us in another of his letters to the Philippians these words, "But this one thing I do, forgetting what is behind and straining toward what is ahead, I press on toward the goal to win the prize for which God has called me heavenward in Christ Jesus." Oh, okay, preacher. But just how long am I supposed to keep running? The answer, until you obtain the prize. Folks, the word that Paul uses here, obtain, in his counsel to us to run in such a way so as to obtain the prize, is the Greek word katalambano. It's a compound of two words, kata and the word lambano. The word kata describes something that is coming down from above, while the word lambano means to take or to seize something. So when we compound these two words together into katalambano. It means to grab hold of, to wrestle, to pull down, to make a desired object your very own. And so this image, it sort of pictures for us someone who finds themselves wanting something, and instead of letting that thing slip out of their hands, they pounce on it. They carpe diem. They seize the day. They latch hold of it with all of their might. Paul is using this word, katalambano, to depict the attitude of a runner who is running with all of their might. They're straining forward so that they are able to keep their eyes focused on the finish line. And at last, the runner reaches the goal, and the prize is theirs. And had they approached the race with sort of a laissez-faire, que sera kind of an attitude, someone else would have gotten the prize. But because they ran so as to obtain the prize is now theirs, friends. So let me ask you, are you running in such a way? Do you know what God's divine purpose is for your life? I've grown to understand what my purpose is. Mine? It's helping others to realize the importance of translating your earthly minutes into eternal moments in your daily lives. That's the race that I have been called to run. And that's why I had joy in my heart when I heard that a young man who's sitting in this room today, whose name is Joe, told his family that, when Pastor Jeff talks about that earthly minutes to eternal moments, he said, that resonates for me. That came from a young man who has a lot of life to live and could say, I can just sort of fritter away my life. I got a lot of time. How about you who are older? Do you hear the clock ticking? Do you want your earthly minutes to count? Do you want them to be about eternal moments? That made my heart sing when I heard that came from a young man in our midst. My heart sings when I see some of you come up to me and you pull out your blue poker chip and you say, Pastor Jeff, I carry this chip around that you gave to me a while back, and it reminds me daily that I'm trying to live for those blue chip moments. I'm not trying to live my life for those little 1-point white chip moments all the time. I don't want to fritter my life away. I want to find the 100-point stuff. The eternal moments. That's how I want to live my life. My heart sang when an older man from our traditional service came up to me and he said, Pastor Jeff, I'm trying to live out those blue chip moments in my daily life. He said, I went up to the Burger King recently, and I went in, and as the teenage girl was waiting on me there, I said, I just want to encourage you. You are doing such a good job today. I want you, when you see your mother, to tell her what an excellent job she did raising you. So we sat down to eat, and a few minutes later, the girl got off shift, and she went out, and she got in the car. Her mom had come to pick her up. And when her mom picked her up, he could look out the window and see that the girl was telling her mom what he said. And the mom's face lit up. She shut off the car. She brought her daughter inside, and she told this member of our church, "Sir, I just want to tell you how much that meant to me. I need to hear that right now in my life." Ha. Imagine that. Look for those opportunities in your life when you are able to touch somebody in such a way. So let me ask you again. Are you running in such a way so as to obtain the prize? Or Or you just sort of, half-heartedly, unfocusedly, without resolve, jogging along. Yeah, you just sort of, jogging for Jesus. But if you're serious about finding God's plan and fulfilling it in your life, then maybe it's time to shift into a higher gear, to get out of your seat and begin running the race that God is calling you to. Removing those stumbling blocks, becoming more disciplined in your Christian life. Notice what Paul says to us. He says, everyone who competes in the games, they go into strict training, and they do it to get a crown that will not last. But we do it to get a crown that will last forever. Therefore, I do not run like someone running aimlessly. No, I beat my body. I make it my slave so that after I have preached to others, I myself will not be disqualified for the prize. How about you? Could it be said that someday you would be disqualified for the prize because you did not run in such a way so as to win it? And folks, we've talked here today about how individually we need to run in such a way. But what about us as a church? How do we need to run collectively? Well, in 1,000 different ways, but I want to share with you this morning one specific way it applies in our last few moments. As you're aware, 2 weeks from this morning is Easter Sunday here at Community Church, and with that in mind, I want to share with you what some wise folks that I listened to had to say about how we all together can make this the best Easter ever. Because you see, it depends on us all running in such a way so as to win the prize. Because we know that pound for pound, Easter morning means that we are going to have more visitors than any other Sunday of the year. So this provides us a unique opportunity to reach people. And yet, it's not just all up to me as the preacher to have my game face on that morning. It's also up to all of you. You see, you all matter. As we've already discussed, as we run in this race, other people are watching us. You have an incredible impact to magnetically attract others to Christ and to this church, or to repel them and to push them away. So how can we collectively run in such a way this Easter so as to win the prize of our visitors wanting to be able to come back again? Essentially, what will be the takeaway from our Easter morning services as those visiting families are leaving our parking lot? Well, a woman named Maya Angelou says that people will forget what we say or do, but they will remember how we make them feel. Yeah, the experience they'll have here on Easter morning, it'll be a big determining factor. And folks in the business world, they understand this truth, that people are valuable, that they deserve to be treated as such. Every Sunday is someone's first Sunday here. So if we make a bad impression, then we will not likely get a second chance to make a first impression. So if the goal, the prize we are striving for, is for them to want to be able to come back, then we have to treat each visitor as a VIP. And dear ones, for many, let me tell you that the world has crushed any notion of the value or the worth that God sees in them. Maybe they've had a bad church experience at some point in the past. So Easter, It's an opportunity to change that. Folks, I want you to know that the sermon doesn't start with me. The sermon starts in the parking lot. And if people are not treated as of value from the parking lot on, then we as a church are already behind the 8 ball with their first impressions. Do any of you know who a guy named Horst Schulze is? We got one person. He was the former president of the Ritz-Carlton Hotels, known for having the best customer service in all of the world. And do you know what he had to say to us as the church? He says the church should be leading the way when it comes to serving people because our leader is the greatest servant of all time. So from the street to the greet to the seat. Do you see that? A visitor who comes here should experience amazing hospitality. Many churches are known for what they are against, but we want folks to experience what we are for. And what we are for is them. We have to be. The Ritz-Carlton shouldn't be number one in guest services. We as the church should be. We have to run in such a way together so as to win the prize. Can I hear an amen? So let me share with you as we wrap up this morning 3 little critical things to lift up as essential to what we want our DNA, our culture to become here at Community Church, and not just on Easter morning, but every morning. We want to show our visitors that God is for them by how well we serve them. Because remember, each of you are representing God as a member of this church. So number 1, this Easter, we want people to walk away from this place with a wow experience. And that means, folks, if you're a greeter, if you're an usher, or even if you're a member, carry some cough drops in your pocket to be able to give to someone, if they start coughing. Carry a packet of Kleenex with you to give to somebody. What would it mean for a visitor to go, wow? We want folks to feel that experience here, that they've had a surprisingly personal experience. So that means that each of us, our job is to find that one person to make them go, wow. That is each of your goals as a servant, to make them say, wow, those people at Community Church, they really do care about me. They went above and beyond. And why? Because that reflects on the grace of God. Because guests are ultimately asking themselves, do they really care about me? And how we serve them is the most credible answer to that crucial question. It's not in what we say, it's in what we do. So if we're going to err, let's err on the side of wowing them too much. And then, secondly, the experience we want people to walk away from on Easter is that church was unexpectedly fun. Yeah, people are drawn in by something that is fun. And too often, we in the church, we take ourselves so darn seriously. So starting with the parking lot, we want to seek to disarm people. So if you got a wagon, wagon that children ride in, bring that on Easter morning. Let's have fun bringing families with their kids in from the parking lot into the church, because that way folks haven't even gotten into the church yet and they haven't even sat down, and yet already they've had an experience. How about greeting people with high fives? on Easter morning and welcoming the children and being creative and fun, and as well, laughter. It's essential. Everyone smile. In fact, you know what they're doing over at the new Chick-fil-A over there in Holland? They train all of their servers to smile. Because it is the natural human reaction when somebody smiles at you to smile. So smile on Easter morning, because when you smile, it's infectious. Let's say that you volunteered on Easter morning to be a greeter in our parking lot, and then you introduced yourself to someone and you offered to escort them into the building. Well, ain't that going just a bit too far, preacher? But is it? For the extravagant, generous God that we serve. And what if you even said to them as you parted, hey, you know, if you'd like to talk with me some more, I'll be right over there after the service, and I would love to give you a tour of the building. Yeah, create a wow experience. It was surprisingly personal. Then make Easter unexpectedly fun. And finally, create a lasting impression. And how can we do that? In a practical way. When you greet a guest, ask them their name and then say it back to them. It'll help you remember it. And then say, nice to meet you. And this will leave a lasting impression. And in addition, then listen carefully, observe their body language, look them in the eye, pick up any cues. Be sensitive. Are they anxious? Are they standoffish? See if you can connect with them and put them at ease. Look at what they're wearing. Does it clue you into any connection points? Are they a golfer? Do they like a particular sports team? Create a bond. Ask a mother who has too much to carry if you can help carry something. How can you serve them? And then as you say goodbye, use their name again. Close the circle. People like to hear their name. It's more personal. And then thank them for visiting. Tell them that you're glad they came. And if possible, if we as the church get their address, get it from us, and then write them a handwritten note thanking them for coming. And they'll say, wow, they actually wrote me a handwritten note. Why is that important? Because we show our guests that God is for them by how we serve them. Folks, as we wrap up today, perhaps that brief interaction before our worship service out in the parking lot, maybe it would look something like this.
Come on, girls. Let's go into church. All right? Are we excited?
Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very well.
Good.
My name is Ben. What is your name?
Hi, Ben. I'm Jamie Hevelin. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
This is Ella.
Hi, Ella. Nice to meet you.
And this is Aubrey.
Hi, Aubrey. Nice to meet you. Can I walk you guys into church?
Yes, that would be great.
All right, right this way. Let's head in. So, Jamie, are you visiting for the first time, or are you from the area?
Yes. Well, I am from the area, but this is our first time here.
Oh, okay. Where are you guys from?
We are from Fenville.
Oh, very nice. Well, we have a lot of people in our church from Fenville, so you guys
That's
might
great.
actually recognize some people.
Oh, nice. Maybe some of your friends from school go here.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yes.
We have great Sunday school, too, so.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Well, we are so happy that you guys decided to visit today. One of our greeters will take you in and give you a bulletin. But if you guys have any questions, you want to know anything further, I'll be outside the service afterwards, so you guys can reconnect with me, and I'd be happy to give you a tour. So
yes,
we're just
I would love a tour.
So thankful that you guys are here on Easter today.
Us too.
Wonderful.
Yay!
Well, all right. Well, you guys have a wonderful Sunday. We'll see you later.
Thank you, Ben.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Let's go, girls.
Let's put our hands together. Folks, that's running in such a way, right? So as to win the prize. Well, following the service today, you're going to see Mike and Suzanne Mora back at a table in the back. And if you would like to sign up to be a greeter on Easter morning, be willing to go out in our parking lot or to be on the walk as people are coming in, sign up. And then you will get a letter this week from me with some of the points that we talked about today of how you can be equipped to be able to talk to people on Easter morning. And the neat thing about that is, Ben and Mike will be here that morning, and they will get you all set up. They'll get you into your assigned area. And even if you don't feel comfortable and you don't feel like you can quite do that, come on Easter morning and at least smile and say, good morning. I'm so-and-so. What's your name? Hi, so-and-so. I am so glad that you are here. And all of God's people, let's say it together. Amen.